Hey everyone, welcome. Today, I wanted to go over how I approach each fight in Tier 11 as a Warlock. The tier has been out for 2 weeks now, and this information may be subject to change as fight lengths become shorter. And I'll be using a combination of raidplan.io, Warcraft logs, and my personal VOD for this video. This is a much longer video than I normally do, and there are timestamps below if you're wondering about a specific boss. You can just skip through, do whatever you want. If you think that I'm blatantly wrong about something, join the Discord and tell me that I am, or leave a comment below telling me I missed something, etc. I'm only human, and I'm trying to just put out this information for people to build upon their own gameplay. So, I hope you enjoy. Alright guys, let's start with the first boss. We're gonna go Blackwing Descent, then Bastion of Twilight, then Throne of the Four Winds, and again, skip to wherever you want in the video if you're looking for a specific boss. But let's start with Magmaw. Now, Magmaw is actually, I think, one of the harder fights in this tier, but for you specifically, this is what our group does. Our group has the tank over here on Circle, and the melee over here by Triangle. And this has been consistent in the majority of raids. Now, a lot of you are going to be asked to maybe stand in range, but if you're standing in range, you're not getting uptime on Immolation Aura or Shadow Flame, so what I would recommend is try to convince your raid leader to stack on the melee here, so you can get uptime with your melee ranged abilities. I would also recommend dropping a port over here, because when Magmaw does his slam, the ignition slam, where he smacks half the room, it's kind of awkward, because you're splitting in here and here. So this will give you a fast way out so you can still have uptime, and then you're not within melee range, maybe in fire. You do have to watch out for fire though, regardless. So in addition to dropping the port and having a solid positioning, you're gonna maybe be asked to do lava parasites. I mean, you don't really have the damage to deal with parasites well. I think the elemental shamans, the hunters, the kiting DK, however you're approaching it, are definitely gonna have an easier time dealing with that. So I wouldn't really worry about the parasites at all. I don't think these are Warlock responsibility, and I would try to convince my raid leader as such, because if you go in there, you will probably die. We have our burning construct over here, and an important part about the burning constructs, this is the top log on Magmaw right now, Mr. Sloobs, and if you look at the blazing construct, he's putting up dots on the constructs almost the whole time, and having his pet cleave off of it, and then angling his Shadow Flame to hit the constructs as well while he's standing in melee. And I think that's important. So we multi-dot the construct, we're keeping our Doom and our dots on Magmaw too, and our pet on Magmaw. And then a common question I get is, do you Doom Guard on pull or for the head? Personally, I would Doom Guard on pull while you're doing as much damage as possible with all your procs and such. Mr. Sloobs did that here, and I think that might be the trend we see moving forward until we get more gear and damage ramps up. Then I would say there's an opportunity to Doom Guard the exposed head as well. So I think that's about it for Magmaw, because you guys know the exposed head takes more damage, so use whatever cooldowns you have. Make sure you hard summon that Fel Guard out before the head comes down so you get the most uptime possible. And multi-dot on our construct here, and make sure you drop a port for an easy escape for these ignitions, and then you stand in melee, and you should see yourself do a lot better on Magmaw. Fight number 2 in Blackwing Descent, ODS, or on the Tron defense system. The most important part about this fight for amping your damage, I'd say, is 2 things. One, I assume you are lusting on pull, and you are Doom Guarding on pull, because there's not really a reason to hold your Doom Guard for later. You're going to get the most amount of procs all at once off rip. The second part, Magmatron and Electron don't really have any damage amp, so you're kind of just going to do damage to these normally. It doesn't really matter. They don't have anything that'll make your damage better or worse. I would also drop a port near the front of the room, one of the corners, so you could escape easily. For any sort of bad ability, maybe you got to get out with, you're getting targeted by Magmatron or something, you just got to get out of the raid. So these two don't matter to us. The one that really matters is Arcanatron. Arcanatron drops a pool, and I'm going to open up my VOD and show you guys what the pools look like from the middle of a fight. Now, here, the shield's about to go onto Magmatron, so we swap off of Magmatron, we move our pet onto Arcanatron because we don't want to pop the shield. This is the pool underneath. You get a 50% damage amp, and you get increased mana back from the debuff. And the pool always drops underneath Arcanatron. So that is very important, because while you're getting into position here, I know that I should get closer to Arcanatron when he activates to get into this pool. And sometimes the pool will explode, you just gotta get out of it quick, but usually about 3 pools drop from an Arcanatron, because even when it's not active, it's still dropping pools. Like, look, I'm the only one in the fresh pool. I'm summoning my Felguard for big damn here. I'm about to pop my Demon Soul, and then it explodes. So sometimes you get unlucky, right? Like, what are you gonna do? But it's important to abuse the pools for the most uptime you possibly can for big damage. Now, the other thing that I like to talk about are these little poison bombs. If you try to AoE these, you might get targeted and you might die. So I would put up like a Corruption on maybe 1 or 2 of them and put an Incinerate or Shadow Bolt into them, but I wouldn't really worry that much about it. I wouldn't run in and Hellfire. This is a log from Mr. Chanimal. And you can see that he doesn't really AoE at all on these ads, and I agree with that decision, because it's very dangerous and you can kill yourself. But besides those, the Arcanatron and Toxitron, the other 2, again, do not really do anything that gives you a damage amp that you need to really focus on. Next is Atramedes. The top log on Atramedes right now is Mr. Hype W. Shout out Hype W and who. And Mr. Hype W just absolutely cranked. There's no way around it. There's nothing on this fight that will let you pad. There's nothing on this fight that gives you a personal damage amp. All you have are the gongs. So this fight, if your guild's chaining gongs during Lust, and you have enough damage to push through massive chunks of Atramedes' health, you're gonna do great damage here. And I Doomguard on pull here, another great Doomguard on pull. And this raid is very dependent on your raid damage in my experience. This is how my guild kind of sets it up for my own personal VOD, is we kind of sit there on square and move between square and X as a unit. Be careful to be within range for Immolation Aura and Shadow Flame. I think I pull off the boss here and miss a Shadow Flame. It's just a DPS check on your raid to do good damage on this boss, and then surviving and not getting hit by mechanics. There's no sugarcoating, there's no cheat code for this one. This is just crank it out. Now Chimeron. Chimeron's very similar to Atramedes. This is the most Patchwork-esque fight probably in the entire raid tier, because you're actually just standing in one place and hitting the boss and maybe moving once or twice to stack and then porting back to where you started. So the top damage on this again is Mr. Hype W, shout out who, shout out Hype W, and you can see his pet's absolutely blasting the entire time. And he Doomguards on pull with all the CDs, so he can do the most damage possible, right? Now, if I go to my VOD, it's just a pull timer and you go. There's no min-maxing secrets. This is another one of those mastery of your rotation and your raid damage, because if you have people not doing big damage in your raid, then you're not going to do well on this boss. That's just how it is. I would also recommend you double check that you're in range of your Shadow Flame and Immolation Aura, because it's very easy to be out of range of those. I ran into that error my first time doing this boss and was promptly corrected by Marco, shout out Marco, and it's a very straightforward fight. Next is Maloriak. Now, before I even get into this, I want to show you guys what the damage breakdown is on our top log here. Mr. Shally from Anyways Good Talk EU. You can see it's Hellfire. And this Hellfire is absolutely cranking. His pet, Felstorm, is cranking. His Immolation, Shadow Flame uptime is brilliant. So we know we're going to be AoEing a lot in this fight. Now let's look at when and how we AoE. Now, on Maloriak on pull, I'm still going to Doomguard. I don't think the Doomguard lines up as well at any other point in the fight, so we're still going to Doomguard on hold, but I hold CDs on pull for these Vile Swells. Now, what would this actually look like? So, I have the VOD pulled up here, and this is the start of the fight. Engulfing Darkness just started, and these Vile Swills just spawned. This happens pretty quickly. Now, I have all my cooldowns, and I just popped them, and we're following these Vile Swills around the room, and just hellfiring them. Now, there's going to be stuff on the ground, just move out of it, you're going to be a-okay, but this is during the first set of cooldowns. This is big damn here, and so we're blasting, we're just hellfiring, we're life tapping, so we keep hellfiring, and we just keep moving, and we kill the Vile Swells. And at the end of this, your damage is going to go a lot higher than what it was at, which is good. Now, you push through the fight like normal. These are now dead. You're going to go through Fire Phase, which you just stack. You're going to go through Frost Phase, which you just spread. But then you eventually get to Green Phase. And now, through these two phases, your cooldown should be back up soon. Now, when Green Phase happens, this is what Green Phase looks like. Now, You get knocked back, assuming you're still kind of stacked from red phase. And if you look over here during this knockback, boom, you do 100% damage for 15 seconds. And this is when your raid leader is going to call for you to destroy these aberrations. So we're popping meta, we're popping demons, so we have our Fel Guard out. This would be a good time to use my pod again. I don't know if I did here. And you Felstorm. You pop everything you have. You pop everything, and the damage just is out of control, right? And so we're just doing big damage. These all die, and then you get into Execute, which you just mash in Soulfire, and then it's just normal rotation. You can see here that if you focus on doing the AoE to the ads, then you're going to do a lot more damage than what you could do normally. And that's about Maloriak. Time for the last fight in Blackwing Descent, Nefarian. Now, for Nefarian, I chose this log of the top AF lock that I saw, the top overall Warlock for damage. I think Nefarian's a very good AF fight because of the damage percent and any sort of damage amp and multi-target, really good for AF. So, the key to this fight is the debuff Stolen Power. Now, what is Stolen Power? Stolen Power is the debuff you get when you get mind controlled and you're mashing your 2 button for extra stacks. It stacks up to 150. Now, what does that look like? Let's take a look for my VOD. I haven't done it on Heroic on my lock yet, but on my Hunter I have, and this is almost perfect RNG. You can see right here, I have max stacks of the Dominion, and Dominion's about to go out again. So I'm doing big damn, I'm keeping up, and we're blasting. We're about to get a Dominion. 3, 2, 1. Now let's take a close look at what this is. Now, for Dominion, you are mashing 2. This 2 button down here gives you stacks of the Stolen Power. 1 breaks the mind control. If you touch the portal, you die. Now, we usually have hunters, like slowing people with slow traps so people don't, you know, kill themselves in the portal trying to greed damage. But ideally, you get a full 150 stack in one go. So you're like, you can see my GCDs. I'm just mashing my 2 as hard as I can here. And I get full stacks. I break it. I come back. And you can see right after 150, I had another 150, so I'm just cranking it out. You can see me just scaling the meters. And I got a big lock and load proc here, so this is just going to go even higher. I mean, it's just going to keep going, right? I mean, you can see the numbers. You get the point. Now, the Stolen Power mechanic is what you're riding on. In terms of the actual fight itself, you hit Oni at the start. You hit Neff a little bit, maybe get some Stolen Power. Oni dies. You do the phase, you go on your pillar, right? You're hitting your construct, whatever it is, the blazing bastard at the top here that does the AoE. You can't really kick, and pets are kind of annoying, but if you just smash follow on your pet, it should be fine, and your pet should come with you. And then you jump down and kind of stack together, and pray you get Stolen Power stacks. That's all you could really do. Now, this fight is super RNG, and I hope they take it out of logs, but they probably won't, because that's life. But now you know, stack as much Stolen Power as you can. If you don't do on the fight, blame RNG. All right, let's move to Bastion of Twilight, starting with Halfus. Now, Halfus is a very interesting fight with a very large damage amp, and I've seen this done in a few ways. But the thing I want to point out is that there's been a debate whether to use Infernal in the fight for the whelps or Doomguard at the end for the damage amp, and this is the top log. Shout out Mr. Nemo. Very, very good Warlock. And you can see that his 1 Doomguard cast was almost equivalent to his entire Fel Hunter damage. So my Infernal did about 1.2 million on the whelps with the 400k from the crash and about 800k from its actual damage. And this blows it out of the water. This literally doubles it. So I'm going to be Doomguarding Halfus at the end with some procs from now on and see how that makes a difference, because this is a lot of damage. This is a lot of damage. So let's get into the fight. Now, a few people set up a few different ways. Now, most people, I think, kill the Storm Dragon first. So you'll precast, and then ideally everything will be kind of stacked together. You'll have your 3 dragons all together, and then the whelps get released on pull. Some guilds do it a little bit slower. They'll do like 2 dragons and whelps, and then once this dies, they'll like pull this one in. You know, it really is dependent on what your team is doing, but most people release the whelps immediately, and this kind of looks like this. So we start the fight, we're gathering everything together, kicking Shadow Nova, very important. And now we have all of our CDs. I literally just pop everything. I pop Meta, I pop Demon Slow, I pop Blood Fairy, then I pop Felstorm, have all my procs, and I think I Infernal here as well. There it is. Very big landing. I mean, you can see how much damage it's doing. And we're popping all of our cooldowns on the whelps. They're just absolutely cranking. You can look on the bottom right. It's a lot of damage. Now, I think I'm not going to Infernal next time. I don't know how much of a damage difference that'll make. But once all the whelps are dead, I kind of like to put dots on the dragons. You can see the at least corruption while you're moving on the dragons, and kind of crank whichever one you're supposed to be killing first. So we're killing Stormrider. I kill Stormrider. Now, there's a lot of cheese in the community. If you're fighting the boss, if you're progging the boss, I wouldn't recommend this. But if you're trying to focus on your personal damage, this is how people are doing it. Once a dragon dies, and then maybe the second dragon dies, people are focusing Halfus and leaving their pet on it the entire time, and that is adding up to a lot of personal damage. So if you're looking to min-max your damage and be a scumbag, you'll leave your pet on Halfus the entire time, and especially when you start taking the extra damage. Besides that, just pop all your cooldowns on pull for the big AoE, and then Doomguard once a few of the dragons are dead, and you'll see yourself do a lot of damage on this fight. Twin Dragons, or V&T, whatever people want to call it nowadays. Now, I think this fight is extremely good for Affliction. I would recommend playing Affliction here. If you can't play Affliction, you can just play Demo. The concepts are kind of the same, where you are just managing your multi-dotting. Now, the cool part about this fight is getting this buff, Mr. Engulfing Magic. Now, Engulfing Magic increases your damage by 100%, but you do a pulsating AoE that hurts everybody you know. It looks like this. Now, you can see I have it 100% damage, and it's just doing this big pulsing AoE for all the damage I'm doing. I'm popping my CDs as soon as they come up here to do as much damage as I possibly can. A small side note, if you Dark Intent someone in this fight and they go downstairs, you aren't getting benefits from your Dark Intent. I don't know if that's intentional, but I would recommend Dark Intenting someone that you're staying with the whole time, so you can get uptime on that. I didn't know that. You can see my buff fell off here, and I adjusted later. But stand off to the side if you get engulfing, and you won't hurt anybody. Now, Soul Swap is an amazing ability here. If your dots fall off Valiona, because you're too far away, you can just Soul Swap your dots from Thurlian to Valiona, and you are in a good place. Also, when the dragon's doing the drive-by, you can soul swap your full row of dots into it while it's going by. Maybe you have engulfing, and that really adds up in damage. So you want engulfing, you want good positioning, you want to not kill your friends here. There's not really anything else. Sometimes the tanks tank them really far away, and it's hard to get uptime because if you move too far away and you get a mechanic you need to stack, you don't really have the movement speed besides rocket boots and port to get over there. So this fight is all about your personal positioning and your ability to manage multi-dots and getting some okay engulfing magic RNG. Look how much damage Mr. Palav Jr. was doing on the fight. I mean, 32k at this point in time is insane. Ascendant Council. Also pretty solid F fight, but the most important of this fight comes at the beginning because of the debuffs Flame Imbue and Frost Imbue. Now, if you get Frost Imbue, you do more damage to the Fire guy. If you get the Flame Imbue, you do more damage to the Frost guy. That's just kind of how it works. Now, I would stand in melee and drop my port at your stack point. Maybe there's a stack point here where you guys are dropping Gravity Core and Sonic Overload. So you stand in melee and then just port over there, and then you go right back in. Because if you hit people with this Gravity Core, they will be very angry at you. Now, here's a VOD clip of my opener. I'm just stacking in, waiting for my abilities. I saved my Doomguard because we were having trouble pushing later on, so I was Doomguarding in the future phases. So don't necessarily Doomguard and pull. If you guys are just having a hard time with it, then save it for later. But here we go. You see I have the extra damage to Ignatius as I'm standing in here, so I'm targeting Ignatius, but I also got hit by Gravity Core. You can see me freaking the fuck out that I got hit by Gravity Core. But we're scaling solid damage here, although if you get hit by this Gravity Core, it's kind of game over. So if you get hit by Gravity Core once in this phase, you might as well kiss any sort of damage you're doing goodbye for later on. Now, after this first phase, we're trying to get the Frost and Fire, and we're not getting hit by Gravity Core. These two are dead. The second phase is a lot more complicated. I don't know if we got to it in this pull, but it looks like we did. But in this phase, there's so many things that require movement between Lightning Rod. You have to get in air. You have a Frost Beacon, and there's just a lot of moving parts. So what I try to do is try to keep dots up as best as I can while moving around, shadow flaming when I can. I'm hellfiring here because we're calling for a wipe and it doesn't really matter anymore, but you get the gist of it. There's a lot of movement and there's not a lot of opportunity to sit there and cast. If you can sit there and cast, it's going to do you very well. Now, the third part of this fight is the Elemental Monstrosity. Now, it usually starts in the middle, and then maybe your group pulls it to the door, pulls it over here, and walks it around the room. Now, you need to know where you are going. In my guild's case, we drag it over here. So, to give myself an advantageous position, it would be somewhere over here, where they're moving the boss, and I don't really have to move. You might have to sacrifice your melee damage uptime, because the chain lightning that the boss does, the electrical instability, whatever it's called, is very dangerous. So you don't want to stand near people, but you also don't want to move, so you have more uptime on the boss. And this is when you lust, this is when you pop in anything else you have as it's going through. And if you can do all that, you'll have the good council damage Parse. Chogall. Now, Chogall is an interesting one. I think that Chogall is a very good fight to play Aff on, and for a few reasons. There is a variety of enemy type. You have the adherents, you have the fire orders, you have the shadow orders, and a lot of the times these aren't really being focused by people that are trying to do damage to the boss. You also have the bloods. So I would play Aff on this fight, or learn Aff. If you're playing Demo, that's fine too. There's just a few adjustments you have to make. It's the same core concept of being able to keep your dots up on Chogall and multi-dotting when you can, right? So getting straight into the fight, the Shadow Order and the Fire Order, I like to put a corruption on them and let the melee DPS kind of take care of those. Unless the melee DPS are away, then it becomes my responsibility to do those. But these aren't really that big of a deal. Just throw a corruption on them. You don't got to worry about it. We Doomguard on pull here with all of our cooldowns, and the most important thing is managing these little bloods, because these bloods are A, can destroy your raid, and B, people don't like to AoE them. So Aff is the perfect class for this. And I have a VOD here of everything's about to spawn. I have my dots up on Chogall. I pop Soulburn, Big Seed, and you can see here, boom, corruption's on literally everything. And this adds up pretty well over the course of the fight. And I know Seed isn't as good as it used to be, but here it works out pretty well. And I really enjoy seeding this boss, so I'm probably going to keep playing Aff on it. And as these adherents are coming in, you know, you're just multi-dotting Chogall and these adherents, like standing still and casting on both of them when you can, dodging Shadow Crash, just dodging fire, and that's kind of about it. I mean, the AoE on these adds is massive when it adds up. If you're playing Demo, I would try to micro my pet over your Doomguard so it can Felstorm these, and that kind of adds up, but that is a little bit annoying to do because there's knockbacks and slows and weird things, and then they die, your Felgar comes back in because there's nothing to attack anymore, and it can be a little bit annoying to deal with. So I would recommend, again, to go Aff. And on the Flaming Destruction, Shadows Orders, Corruption, multi-dot adherence full, keep your dots on Chogall, and I would keep my pet on Chogall the whole time too. Your Fel Hunter. There's almost no reason to pull the Fel Hunter off Chogall onto any of these adds because it just makes it more complicated, right? So that's about it for Chogall. Our last boss in Bastion, Twilight Sinestra. Sinestra is very interesting. Another fight I would recommend going Aff on. I feel like it fits the script really well. Now, the best part of this fight is, I'm going to show you in the VOD right now. Once you kill the eggs, you'll transition to phase 3. And once everyone's in place, you get this big haste buff. Now look at my cast during this time. Look how fast I'm just casting. And the dots are just ticking all over the place. 0.8 second Shadow Bolt cast. And this fight's really cool, and it just flows really well. Now, some of the important things about this fight, if you notice over here, my pet is super close, and there's like pets bugging out on this fight. Pets are everywhere. There's this pet over here. Now, if your pet isn't as close to the boss as possible, you're not going to be able to hit it. So what I would recommend is you do a macro like this, /pet move to, and move it somewhere. We, for some reason, have this in the game right now, and you can just make a macro with /pet move to, and then it lets you move your pet based off your cursor. So you click the macro, then you click with your mouse, you left click, and it'll move your pet to wherever. And I moved mine right over here as close as it can so it can have uptime. I would leave my pet on the boss almost the whole time, even for the egg phase, because moving it is a huge pain in the butt. So you just leave this here, and it's basically an autopilot for the rest of the fight. So that is very important. Another portion of this is these whelps, and Soulburn Seed is very good on these whelps. As you can see, Seed of Corruption, and Corruption, probably from the Whelps and more Corruptions. Corruption is a big part of your damage here. And Shadow Flame is as well. So that's kind of about it. I mean, making sure your pet doesn't screw you, moving Twilight Cutters out, and having good uptime on the Whelps, and you'll see yourself do good damage on this boss. Now, ideally, the more damage you do on this boss, the better your uptime on the buff will be, and the more damage you're going to do on the fight, right? So it's another one of those, how much is my raid doing, right? It adds up. Obviously, if everyone's trying, then people are going to do better as a collective. So just keep that in mind. Make sure your pet's attacking. It's very important. Get a pet not attacking weak aura and use /pet move to, and you'll be doing well. Throw on the 4 wins. 2 more bosses to go. We're almost at the end here. This fight, most of the time, we've been having our range start over here on Antshal. Antshal is pretty straightforward from a DPS perspective. The only thing you have to do is watch out for the flowers. Don't let them get too close. They will put out a toxic spore, and this just gets bigger and stacks more, and it'll kill you very easily, so watch out for that. In terms of the ads itself, ideally you don't have to touch the ads, because you don't really have a good way to attack them safely from range as Demo. I mean, Aff can just seed them, but as Demo, you can't really do that. But this is a fight that's 100% I would play Demo on. And I just want to show you a very fun thing that Antshal does. Now, as you see, look at this Doom card right here. Mr. Pelican's got very unlucky with this Doom guard. As we're progressing, the Doom guard is pacified. It just cannot attack. And eventually, if you move far away from it, it kind of works like a pet follow, and the Doom guard will follow it. But if you stand still, the Doom guard's just going to stand in that circle and be pacified and not attack. And so really with Fel Hunter. So you got to make sure that you kind of move off to the side to summon your Doom guard when you're ready. Or make sure your Fel Hunter's not standing in it, because Fel Hunter's a large chunk of our damage, and it's just a huge damage loss. With the little guys, I wouldn't worry about the little flowers unless your raid leader tells you specifically to target them. Maybe I'd put like an immolate or 2 on them if they're not dying, but the Ellie Shamans and the Hunters should make those things, and the Mages should make those things like evaporate. I don't think they're your problem, because you're not equipped to deal with it. So that's all for Antshal. And then the Frost platform, you just have to stack in close and pop all your cooldowns with everybody. So I like to pop all my cooldowns on pull, and then you'll get them again probably if you go over to this platform a second time to finish off Nazir, and you'll be in for a good time. And Doomguard on pull, this is pretty straightforward, but definitely watch out for the stupid pool that CCs your pets. It'll kill any sort of momentum you have. Alakir, our final fight, and I think this is one of the more RNG annoying fights for a few reasons that we'll get to in a few minutes. But I just want to start with, there's 2 primary targets on this fight. There's Alakir, and then there's these Stormlings. When Stormlings spawn, I would put up Immolating Corruption on them and then go back to Alakir. I wouldn't worry about this. Your Elemental Shamans should be able to finish them with Chain Lightning, and Hunters with Kill Shot. I don't think it's your responsibility to be finishing these off, but you can feel free to multi-dot them if they're not dying quick enough, right? This is also a Doomguard on pull here. Now, the first 20% of this fight is really toxic. Just to get straight into it, I'm popping all my cooldowns, I'm going straight in, etc, etc. Waiting for these procs here. Now, there's a lot of things happening all at once between the blizzard, the lightning, etc. I recommend putting your port on the base here, because if a squall line is coming, and maybe you have a blizzard coming and you're being screwed, and it's like over here, and you're positioned like over here, and the only gap is right here, then you can let the squall line move by, you jump off, and then it goes by, and then you port back up, and then you're good, right? A little bit of some trickery. If you get wind bursted, if you're too far back, you just port back up. The port is very versatile here, so I would make sure to have one down and take advantage of the spacing. Now, that's phase 1. Then phase 2, you'll stack with your group wherever you are. Maybe you're over here, you're stacked up, and you have Stormlings coming in, you're dotting up the Stormlings, but you don't kill them until the raid leader calls, because we're trying to keep this feedback buff, which increases with the duration. I think it's 20 seconds, and every time you kill one of these Stormlings, it adds a stack, and it increases the duration to its original amount again. So we're trying to control these, and your damage to Alakir is going to ramp up, where in phase 2 you'll eventually lust, and that's when you'll pop all your cooldowns again. Now, the final phase, the third phase, now this is the really toxic part. When the platform breaks, I don't know if, oh, there's an aerial point of view. Okay. You guys are going to be probably going up to the back of the head. Your pet's going to despawn. You do not have a pet anymore. The Z-axis is not very kind to pets, right? So you're going to be moving up and down, whatever, with clouds coming out, and it's going to be really toxic, and you're going to be moving up with your group, and etc. And you're not going to have a pet. So just cast what you can, when you can, normal rotation, and do the best you can with it. That's Alakir. Hey guys, thanks for making it to the end of the video. If you like what you saw, please like and subscribe for some more content. I plan on making a 10-minute AF guide and a 10-minute Hunter guide sooner rather than later. These are two classes that I've been having a lot of fun on, and I want to share my experiences with you guys. Now, I know that there's a lot of information in this video, and sometimes information can change. Please bear that in mind, but also use this information in this video as a baseline of your own information. Don't take everything literally, and if you don't like the way I do something, please do it differently and then tell me, and then we can all get better together. That's the whole point of this, right? Anyways, thanks for making it to the end of the video. I really appreciate it. Again, like and subscribe. It helps a lot. It makes me know that you want me to make more content like this. And hopefully I'll catch you next time. Peace.